All right, so you're getting ready for a cattle breeder interview.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, we're diving deep into RoleCatcher's guides today to help you really nail this interview.
Their career guide, interview guide, and even some insights into their AI platform.
Exactly. So think of this deep dive as your crash course to impress those interviewers.
It's like having a cheat sheet, but way more in-depth
Right.
and insightful.
Exactly. So first things first, let's paint a picture of what a cattle breeder actually does.
Right.
RoleCatcher's career guide breaks it down really well.
It does.
It's not just about loving cows,
We gotta love cows.
so that definitely helps.
Yes, it's about understanding genetics, managing animal health,
Yeah?
and even having a little bit of business sense.
Nope.
You're responsible for the herd's well-being and
Yeah.
productivity,
Yeah.
which ties directly into the success of the operation.
Okay, and speaking of success, let's talk about your success in this interview.
Okay.
RoleCatcher has a massive database of interview questions,
Huge.
over 120,000. We've pulled some common ones specifically for cattle breeders ready to tackle them.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, first up, can you tell us about your experience working with different cattle breeds? Now, this one's all about showcasing your knowledge.
For sure.
What do you think?
Don't just list breeds.
Okay.
Pick a few that you've actually worked with
Right.
and get specific. Talk about their temperament, their strengths, their weaknesses, maybe even a challenge that you faced with a particular breed.
Yeah, RoleCatcher's Guide has a sample response that mentions Angus and Hereford breeds.
Yeah.
And it kind of highlights their unique traits, but personalize it.
Yes.
Did you have a breakthrough with a certain breed?
Right.
Did you ever have to adapt your approach based on a breed's specific needs? That's the kind of detail that makes you memorable.
For sure. And be ready for follow-up questions, too.
Okay.
The interviewer might ask you to elaborate on a specific breeding challenge or compare and contrast two breeds.
All right, next question. How do you keep up with new developments in cattle breeding? This is your chance to prove you're passionate and informed.
It's a rapidly evolving field.
Right.
So showcase how you stay updated, mention industry publications, conferences, online forums, but don't just name drop.
Okay.
Talk about a recent article that caught your eye or a speaker who blew your mind at a conference.
Right. RoleCatcher also highlights the power of mentorship.
Yes.
Have you learned from experienced breeders?
Yeah,
Mention that.
absolutely.
It shows dedication and a willingness to learn from the best.
And connect it back to the previous question. Maybe a conference introduced you to a new breeding technique for a specific breed you're familiar with.
Oh, good point.
It shows you're actively seeking knowledge and applying it to your work.
Okay, now for a question that tests your strategic thinking. How do you prioritize traits when selecting cattle for breeding? This one's like a puzzle.
It is.
You've got to consider market demands, environmental factors,
Yep.
and the breeding program's goals.
Absolutely. Start with market research. What are consumers demanding? Leaner meat, higher milk yields. Then factor in your environment.
Sure.
Do you need heat-tolerant cattle disease resistance? It's about balancing those factors with the program's goals. Are you aiming for genetic diversity or enhancing specific traits over generations?
RoleCatcher sample response walks you through this process.
It does.
But again, make it personal.
Yeah.
What traits did you prioritize in your experience? What challenges did you face? Maybe you had to make a tough decision between maximizing a desirable trait
Right.
and maintaining genetic diversity. Talking about those real-world scenarios will impress them.
For sure. And be ready to defend your choices, too. The interviewer might challenge your approach, pushing you to think critically and justify your decisions.
Okay, let's get a bit more technical. Can you discuss your experience with artificial insemination and embryo transfer? These are key technologies in modern breeding.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Honesty is crucial here. If you have hands-on experience, describe your involvement in detail. What procedures did you perform? What challenges did you overcome? What were your successes?
RoleCatcher gives examples like assisting with semen collection and evaluation, or being involved in embryo transfer from donor selection to recipient synchronization. But again, tailor it to your experience.
Yes. And if you don't have practical experience, don't worry.
Okay.
Focus on what you do know.
Good point.
Have you taken courses? Research these techniques extensively. Show your eagerness to learn and gain hands-on experience.
Right.
You could even mention specific areas you'd like to develop your skills in.
That's a great point. Now, on to a question about your overall approach. How do you manage the health and well-being of your cattle?
This goes beyond treating illnesses.
Okay.
It's about preventative care and understanding that healthy cattle are productive cattle.
Absolutely highlight your knowledge of basic needs.
Yeah.
Nutrition, vaccination, parasite control. Then talk about how you monitor the herd. Are you checking feed intake?
Right,
water consumption,
right.
manure consistency. Those little details matter.
They do. And don't forget to mention your collaboration with veterinarians. Share a specific example where you worked with a vet to overcome a health challenge or implement preventative measures.
Good point.
It shows you're a team player and prioritize the animal's well-being.
Speaking of prioritizing well-being, let's talk about RoleCatcher's AI for a second. This is where it gets really cool.
I love this part.
This platform analyzes job descriptions
It does.
and helps you tailor your resume and answers to highlight exactly what they're looking for.
It's like having a personal coach
Yes.
who knows the interviewer's playbook.
Exactly. So as we continue through these questions, keep that AI in mind.
Yes.
It can help you refine your responses and ensure you're hitting all the right notes.
Great point. Ready for the next question?
Bring it on.
All right, let's dive back into those interview questions. This next one is a classic. It's all about how you handle tough situations.
You know, the type, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult or unexpected situation in a breeding program. What are they really looking for here?
They want to see your problem-solving skills in action,
Okay.
and not just a success story. They want to know how you approach challenges, how you think on your feet, and what you learn from the experience.
So how do you pick the right story to share?
Choose something specific to cattle breeding, maybe a difficult calving, a disease outbreak, or a sudden market shift that forced you to adapt. And remember, it's about the process.
So walk me through that. What should the listener focus on?
Use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. It helps you structure your answer, describe the situation, the task at hand, the actions you took, and the outcome.
Okay, I like that it keeps things organized. So you've set the scene, outlined the challenge, and explained your actions. What's next?
Now comes the most important part, the learning. What insights did you gain from this experience? Did it change your approach to certain situations? Did it reinforce the importance of a specific skill?
That makes sense. It shows you're not just reacting to situations, but actively learning and growing from them. And speaking of growth, let's touch on RoleCatcher's AI again.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, this tool can analyze your answers and give you personalized feedback.
It can even suggest improvements to your phrasing or help you highlight key points that might have been overlooked.
It's like having a second set of eyes to ensure you're presenting yourself in the best possible light. All right, back to those questions. This next one is all about measuring success. How do you measure the success of a breeding program? What metrics matter most?
This one is a chance to show off your analytical skills and your business sense. You need to demonstrate a deeper understanding of what drives profitability in cattle breeding.
So it's not enough to just say, my cows are healthy and happy, right?
Exactly. You need to define what success means for a breeding program. Is it producing high-quality calves, maximizing milk yield, improving feed efficiency?
Once you've defined that, then you can talk about the metrics that track progress toward those goals. Things like weaning weights, calving intervals, conception rates, those kinds of things.
Precisely, and don't just list them. Explain why they matter. How do those metrics impact the overall profitability of the operation?
So connect those dots for the interviewer. Show them you understand the bigger picture.
Right, and RoleCatcher's guide emphasizes the importance of benchmarking. Compare your results to industry standards or your own historical data. It shows you're not just aiming for good, you're aiming for better.
And if those metrics aren't where you want them to be, what? Then
Talk about how you use data to make improvements. If you're not hitting your targets, how do you analyze the problem and adjust your strategies? It shows you're proactive and results-oriented.
okay, next question. Let's talk animal welfare during transportation. How do you ensure their safety and comfort? This one's all about demonstrating your commitment to ethical animal handling practices, even when the animals are off the farm.
It shows you understand that your responsibility for their well-being doesn't end at the pasture fence.
So where do you start with this one?
Start by discussing your familiarity with relevant transportation regulations. Do you know the guidelines for loading densities? Proper ventilation? Are you up to date on the latest research on minimizing stress during transport?
RoleCatcher's guide also highlights pre-transport checks as being really important.
Absolutely. Mentioning things like inspecting the transport vehicle, ensuring adequate bedding, and minimizing transport time shows you're taking proactive steps.
And what about communication with the transporter?
That's crucial. Do you provide clear instructions on handling procedures? Do you follow up to ensure the animals arrive safely? This all shows you're going above and beyond to ensure the well-being of the animals in your care.
Okay, now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about a few questions that delve into your understanding of some specific challenges in cattle breeding. This is where you can showcase your deeper knowledge and critical thinking skills. Ready to tackle a few more?
Bring them on.
Okay, first up, what are some of the challenges of breeding for disease resistance in cattle? How do you approach these challenges?
This is a great question that requires a strong understanding of genetics, immunology, and disease management practices. It's a complex issue, and you need to acknowledge that.
So how do you tackle this one?
Start by acknowledging that there are no easy answers. Talk about the difficulties of identifying the specific genes associated with disease resistance. And even when you've identified them, how do you incorporate those genes without negatively impacting other important traits?
It's a balancing act, for sure.
Exactly. RoleCatcher's Guide emphasizes the importance of genetic testing and data analysis here. By tracking disease prevalence and analyzing the genetic makeup of resistant animals, you can make more informed breeding decisions.
And what about collaboration?
Absolutely. Working with veterinarians and researchers to develop and implement effective disease prevention strategies is crucial.
Okay, next question. How has technology impacted cattle breeding in recent years? What are some of the most exciting advancements? This one's all about showcasing your awareness of industry trends and your passion for innovation.
And it's a chance to show that you're staying ahead of the curve.
So what are some things a listener could mention?
Genomic selection is a great example. It allows breeders to identify superior animals based on their DNA. Talk about precision livestock farming technologies using sensors and data to optimize animal health and welfare.
And what about AI?
AI and machine learning are changing the game. They can analyze vast amounts of data to make more informed breeding decisions.
It's all about showing that you're excited about these advancements and eager to incorporate them into your work.
Right. And don't forget to mention how these technologies can be used to improve sustainability and animal welfare.
Great point. Okay, one more question for this section. The cattle industry faces increasing pressure to reduce its environmental impact. How can cattle breeders contribute to sustainability efforts? This one's about the bigger picture.
It shows you're thinking about the long-term sustainability of the entire industry.
So what are some key points to address?
Start with improving feed efficiency. Producing more with less reduces the resources needed.
What about greenhouse gases?
Right. Discuss strategies for reducing methane emissions like dietary modifications or manure management techniques. And don't forget about grazing management. Properly managed grazing can sequester carbon in the soil.
It's all about showing that you're aware of the challenges and actively seeking solutions.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to share your own ideas or thoughts on how to make the cattle industry more sustainable.
That wraps up this round of questions. We've covered some really challenging topics today, and I think our listeners are well on their way to acing that interview.
I agree. Remember, preparation is key. And don't forget to utilize those tools like RoleCatcher's AI to fine-tune your answers and really stand out.
Great advice. We'll be back for part 3 to cover a few final questions and give some overall tips for interview success. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back for the final round of our cattle breeder interview prep. We've covered a lot of ground, but we've saved some of the most thought-provoking questions for last.
The bonus round. Yeah, think of these as the bonus round questions. The ones that really give you a chance to shine and showcase your deeper understanding of the industry.
Exactly. So let's dive right in. This first one is all about balancing competing priorities. How do you balance the need for high productivity with the ethical considerations of animal welfare in cattle breeding? It's a tough question.
Yeah.
But it's one that every cattle breeder needs to grapple with.
It's about finding that sweet spot where the animals thrive
Right.
and the business succeeds. And it starts with recognizing that those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
So how do you approach this question in an interview?
Start by acknowledging the importance of both productivity and animal welfare. They're interconnected. A healthy, well-cared-for animal is more likely to be a productive animal. Then share specific examples of how you've balanced these priorities in your past experience.
So give me an example. What kind of story would really impress the interviewer?
Maybe you implemented a low-stress handling system that improved both animal well-being and production efficiency. Or perhaps you advocated for changes to breeding practices that reduce the incidence of health problems, leading to better overall animal welfare and productivity.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
It's all about showing that you understand the nuances of this balancing act and that you're committed to making ethical decisions that benefit both the animals and the operation.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you refine these answers and ensure you're highlighting the key points that interviewers are looking for.
Right, that AI is like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
It is.
Okay, next question. Looking ahead, what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities you see facing the cattle breeding industry? Now, this one's all about your big picture thinking.
It's a chance to show that you're not just focused on the day-to-day work, but that you're also thinking about the long-term future of the industry.
So what are some things that are top of mind for you right now?
Well, the growing demand for sustainable beef production is a major challenge, but also a huge opportunity. We also have increasing pressure to reduce the environmental footprint of livestock and the need to adapt to a changing climate.
It's a lot to think about. How can cattle breeders start tackling these issues?
Technology is going to play a big role. We need to embrace innovations that can improve efficiency and sustainability, and we need to work collaboratively to find solutions to these shared challenges.
It's about being proactive and forward-thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay, one final question before we move on to some general interview tips. Imagine you're given the opportunity to design a breeding program from scratch. What factors would you consider, and what would be your priorities? This one's all about putting your knowledge and passion on display.
It's your chance to dream big and show the interviewer what you're capable of.
So where do you start with this one?
Start by defining your goals. What are you breeding for? High-quality beef milk production, show cattle. Once you have that clear vision, you can start thinking about the factors you'd consider when selecting breeding stock.
Like specific breeds or genetic traits?
Exactly. And how would you balance performance data with visual appraisals? Would you prioritize certain bloodlines? It's all about showing your understanding of the different elements that go into creating a successful breeding program.
And, of course, you'd need to talk about data.
Right. How would you track the progress of the program and make adjustments along the way? Data analysis is crucial. And don't forget to touch on the ethical considerations.
Right.
How would you ensure the health and well-being of the animals throughout the process?
This question really lets you paint a complete picture of your approach to cattle breeding. It's about showcasing your holistic understanding of the field, from genetics to animal welfare to business management.
It's your chance to show them what makes you unique and why you're the perfect candidate for the job.
Now, before we wrap up, let's go over some general interview tips that will help you make a great impression.
Okay.
What do you think?
First and foremost, do your research. Know the company or operation you're interviewing with. Understand their values, their breeding goals, and their place in the industry. Tailor your responses to show that you've done your homework.
Preparation is key. What else should our listener keep in mind?
Practice your answers beforehand. You might know the material,
Okay.
but it's important to be able to articulate it clearly and confidently under pressure.
And of course, first impressions matter.
Absolutely. Dress professionally and arrive on time. Show them that you're serious about this opportunity.
And don't forget the basics of good communication.
Right. Maintain eye contact.
Yeah.
Be enthusiastic and show your passion for cattle breeding. Let your personality shine through.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask thoughtful questions of your own. It shows that you're engaged and genuinely interested in the position.
It's all about presenting yourself as a confident and knowledgeable candidate who's ready to hit the ground running.
Exactly. And remember, be yourself. Authenticity is key. Let your knowledge, your experience, and your passion shine through.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. From dissecting tough interview questions to harnessing the power of RoleCatcher's AI, you're now armed with the tools and insights you need to ace that interview. So go out there, impress those interviewers, and make your mark on the world of cattle breeding.
We're rooting for you.